Well, hello, and welcome to my second installment on Japan Realized, my new channel about living a real life in Japan. It's been a while, right? Well, I've got a good reason for that, and I'll explain that to you in due course during this video. And it's actually going to lead in to the topic of this video. See, when I made my first video here, I probably jumped the gun just a little bit. I didn't yet have my visa at that point. I was expecting it any day, but I hadn't gotten it. And a lot of stuff then just started to happen, and I became a little concerned that maybe I shouldn't start posting a bunch of videos about living in Japan when I technically don't even yet live here and may in fact be kicked out of the country at any time. So I decided to just kind of hold off. But now I have my visa, and I want to tell you how I got through that process, and then I'm going to give you 5 things that I wish that I had known before I started the process of moving to Japan. And hopefully that'll help some of you out there who may be in a similar situation to me, or even the same situation. But without further ado, let's just get started. So I realize this video, like the first one, is probably going to be a little bit dry. I'm going to try to make it a little bit fun. But one of the points of this channel is to kind of make videos that help those of you who may be going through the same thing. I also want to show some things that might just be interesting and fun for people who, may someday consider moving here or just want to know more about Japan and how it really is. But definitely part of what I want to do with this channel is actually help people. So let me tell you first a little bit about the process that I got into Japan with. So I am on a spousal visa. You can be sponsored by a spouse. You can also be sponsored by a company. You can be sponsored by another family member who's a Japanese national. There are various ways to get a long-term visa in Japan. They all kind of start in a similar way, which is you apply for a certificate of eligibility when you're outside of Japan. Ideally, then, you want to get that certificate of eligibility before you come to Japan. Then you go to a Japanese embassy, wherever you happen to be. You get your visa, which is a very small part of the process, actually, at that point. And then you come to Japan and you're here on your visa. That's how it's supposed to work. Now, when I started the process of getting my visa, or my certificate of eligibility, I was outside of Japan. I had heard, and this was wrong, but I had heard that it was actually better to start the process outside of Japan, finish it within Japan, because there are certain things that you kind of have to do in Japan. And if you're not in Japan, which you shouldn't be, but you can be, but you shouldn't be, but you have to have someone else who's here, like your sponsor, do those things. And it's mostly just getting certain documents and things like that and submitting them for you. So my wife and I actually came to Japan first as a vacation to do some of those things before we moved here. So that stuff should have been done. Now, we did it a little late. We did it a month and a half before we moved to Japan because, again, I was thinking I can just complete it in Japan. And again, you can do that, but then once your certificate of eligibility is granted, you have to then leave the country, get your visa outside the country, and then come back because it's an entry document, which I didn't realize that part. But it ended up not mattering because while 3 months was kind of the time frame they were telling people when I started the process, and I have 3 months in Japan as a tourist, that's automatic for Americans. It turned out that that was delayed, and the time frame just kept stretching and stretching more and more. It became 6 months. Now they're telling people 9 months. So we ended up having to do a second application for a change of status from within Japan. That is basically asking them for an exception. It's not how the process is supposed to work, but it's kind of you saying, all right, it's going to be a big hardship on my family, and there's certain things, certain reasons why I can't leave the country. And so please just make an exception for me so I can stay here in Japan. Once you make that application, you get an extra 2 months to be in the country. So I kind of had to do that. I didn't know if it was going to be successful, but in the end, that second application was successful, and I was able to just stay in the country. Yay! So I'm here now. I have my status as a long-term resident, and now I feel more comfortable to make videos on this channel. And I can get a job. I have health insurance. I'm a normal person again. So with all that in mind, and now that you kind of know what I'm going to be talking about in the rest of this video, I just kind of wanted to go through 5 things that I wish I had known about the immigration process before I started, and that I think you should too. So these are not in any kind of order, but number 1 that I think should be obvious if you've just listened to my story, but start the process early. I did not think it was going to take as long as it did, obviously. And, even when I started, they were telling people 3 months. Now they're telling people 9 months. So as soon as you know you're going to move to Japan, or you want to move to Japan, start the process. Just start it whenever it is. It's going to probably take longer than you would ever imagine at this point. Now, it may have been different in the past, I don't know, but that's how it is now. Start the process early. Now, if what happens to you is what happened to me, it's not necessarily the end of the world. You do have 3 months to be in Japan if you're an American, and from a lot of other countries, but as an American, we have 3 months to be in Japan. So let's say you are 5 months out from moving to Japan. You assumed you had enough time. You start the process of getting your certificate of eligibility. You don't get it by the time you move here. It's not the end of the world. Just come to Japan. You have 3 more months then to wait that you can be here with nothing. And your application is still being processed during that time. And then once you get your certificate of eligibility, you just have to go out of the country, like to Guam or something like that. Go to the Japanese embassy there. It takes about 4 or 5 days from what I understand. You'll get your visa and then you'll come back. So it's an extra expense. It's like an extra week of being outside the country at some point. But again, it's not the end of the world. But still, you should start the process as early as you can. All right, number 2, get an immigration lawyer from the start. We did not do that, and that was a mistake. We did everything ourselves. We just read the rules on the Japanese immigration website. It seemed straightforward, and if all goes well, it is pretty straightforward. You find the right page for your type of certificate of eligibility that you're applying for, and they list all the requirements and everything you need to do there. And there's not really much that's confusing about it, although there are certain types of documents that there are like multiple different subtypes and it's not totally clear which one they want. But the things that an immigration lawyer will give you are, A, they will give you confidence to know that you're doing the right thing. If you're just reading through the Japanese website, you're never quite sure if you're doing the right thing. You may be missing some specific document that they need, or it's like, do you need to submit your entire bank statement, for example, or just the first page, or things like that. Those are questions an immigration lawyer is going to be able to answer. And second, it's probably going to help speed the application process through quicker, just for the fact that the lawyer knows the people at the Immigration Bureau and can probably bump you up a little bit. I mean, who knows? They told us at the immigration office specifically that if we'd had a lawyer, it would have gone quicker. Now, whatever that means, I don't know, but we can kind of infer that, they're going to kind of give priority to different people based on where they're coming from, whether they're just kind of a walk-in or they're coming from a group of, from one particular lawyer or whatever. I don't know, but I'm pretty sure, and they again told us that having a lawyer would have made it go faster. And it certainly would have been easier. It is an extra expense, obviously, but if you have a delay of several months where you can't find a job or can't look for a job because you don't have a visa, that's an extra expense as well. It's lost income. So buy once, cry once. That's what I always say. Pay the lawyer fee. I don't even think it's that much. It's a few $100s. And, let them take care of everything. They won't take care of everything. You'll still have to gather documents and fill out forms and stuff, but they'll make sure that you're actually doing everything that you need to do and doing it properly. Now, the number 3 thing that I wish that I knew about the immigration process is that Japan is all paper-based. It's not computerized at all. Now, this could change by the time you see this video. I don't know when you're seeing this. As of kind of mid-2026, this is how it is. It's all paper-based. They are talking about, throughout this year and next year, kind of computerizing different parts of the system. And I did see, I think, that when I renew my visa next time, I'm supposed to be able to do it all online. Nothing was online for the initial application that I filed, and for when we had to go back and redo everything at the immigration office. It's all on paper. You're printing out a bunch of paper, you're filling out a bunch of forms by hand, you're even handwriting certain letters and things like that. You're going to gather documents at either the city hall or sometimes at a convenience store, because you can do anything at convenience stores here. And one of the things you can do is get government documents at the convenience store. But it's a lot of paper, and you're going to end up with a big file folder that you're going to have to keep organized. And you're going to have to turn that over to the immigration authorities, either in person or by mailing it to them. And if you ever have to go to the immigration office, which you might, you're going to just see the employees all walking around with different files that correspond to the different people who are waiting in the waiting room that day. It's kind of archaic and very kind of 1950s, but that's the way it is right now. It's just something to be aware of, because it's not one of these modern processes where you can just sit there in front of your computer and do it and have it done in 2 hours. That's kind of how the USCIS is right now. It's advanced a lot since kind of the bad old days of like the 90s and early 2000s. But yeah, Japan, it's just all paper. It's all gathering documents, physical documents. And yeah, hopefully that changes soon, but be prepared. All right, number 4, the current government is, by policy, not making any of this easier. They were kind of elected specifically to clamp down a little bit on immigration. Now, it's not that they don't want any immigrants. They do. It's a little bit like the U.S., but not nearly that bad. But yes, they are trying to accept fewer immigrants, especially from certain areas. And they're raising the prices on a lot of different types of visas. Luckily not the type that I had applied for. And they're taking longer and really heavily scrutinizing every single application now. And this is by government policy. This is not an accident, and it's not incompetence. It's what the government wants to do. So you have to be prepared for that. There's nothing you can really do about it. And it may get worse, it may get better over time. We don't really know. But it's just, I would just suggest, kind of looking at the lay of the land before you start this process, or before you even decide to move here if you don't have to. But just think about, what are the obstacles that I'm going to face, and are more of them popping up, and what is the current kind of attitude of the current government. And government in Japan changes all the time. They have a 2-party system like we do in the US, but the prime ministers and the top people at the government change constantly. So you don't really know how things are going to go. But right now it is a little more difficult of an environment for immigration than it has been in the past. And they're just really heavily scrutinizing every document, every application. So you really got to make sure that you cross those T's and dot those I's and just get everything perfect when you submit it, or there's going to be a delay. We had multiple instances where the Immigration Bureau asked us for more documentation, including documents that we had already submitted. That I don't know if they just wanted updated ones or they didn't like the ones that we submitted for some reason, but just it's something to keep in mind. And the number 5 thing that I wish that I had been aware of or known before starting this process is if you do need to go to the Immigration Bureau, if you're already in Japan and you're trying to, submit something or fix something or whatever, and you need to go to the Immigration Bureau, whatever Immigration Bureau it is, but do not go in the early morning. Don't try to beat the rush. That is the rush. The morning is the rush, and everybody is trying to beat it. So by everybody trying to beat it, that becomes the rush. And this is Japan. So if you are not used to Japan in any way, there are lines for everything anyway. It's like a normal part of life in Japan. You don't know how long a line can get in Japan. And they will just put more barriers out until they've accommodated everybody. And that's what happens at the immigration office in the morning. People start lining up at like 5 o'clock in the morning, and they'll just kind of fill in the entire grounds until they're going all the way around the block. And yeah, when you're like the 1,000th person in line for the Immigration Bureau, you're going to be there for 5-6 hours. So unless you're like really at the front of that line and you stand there and wait 2 hours outside anyway, then you're just wasting your time. Just go in the afternoon. Of course, people do kind of trickle in throughout the day, and so it's not like there's only people going in the morning and it just empties out, but generally it gets less and less busy throughout the day because the morning rush kind of gets taken care of. The people who come in after that, there just aren't as many of them. So if you go at like 3 o'clock, and keep in mind, if you go before 4 p.m., they have to see you. They have to accommodate you. If you're there at like 3 o'clock, you might only have like 10 people in front of you for a lot of things. And especially if it's like a rainy day. The best day and time to go is when it's raining at like 3 p.m. You'll thank me for this if you ever have to go and you decide to just see what it's like in the morning. You'll know. And I'm sure this is true of every immigration office in Japan. We've only been to the Shinagawa office. It's not like there are a million different immigration offices in Japan. There's like one for each big city or a couple. The Shinagawa office is the main office for like most of the Tokyo area. Like I'm not even in Tokyo, and that's where I ended up having to go. So every immigration bureau in Japan is going to be very busy all the time. And I guarantee they're all going to be much busier in the morning. So that is my big piece of advice. Go in the afternoon and go when it's raining if you can. So that's basically my list of 5 things. I do have one honorable mention, and that is going to be a little bit controversial, but it really shouldn't be. I want to tell you guys that AI actually helped us quite a bit in this journey, especially trying to do everything ourselves, and not just for big things. Like it did tell us kind of the overall process, and it even gave us like the tip of go in the afternoon. But, little things like what words to use on a cover sheet for your letter of reason that you need to submit for why you want to be in the country. Stuff like that, like translations for my FAA flight certificates, for example, and what words to actually use in Japanese that apply specifically to a flight certificate. Like these are things that you're not going to find just with like a piece of translation software or something like that. And a lot of what it told us, you're not going to find on like an American website in English either. Like, one of the great things about AI, and I'm not saying it's perfect. Like, I'm not a hater of AI. I'm also not like a huge proponent of AI. I think it's useful in certain cases for consumers. But in cases where you're talking about cross-cultural and cross-language problems, where the solution to a problem may be written in another language and you have no way of finding that otherwise, AI is going to know it and it's just going to naturally translate it for you. So don't be afraid of using it. That's all I'm saying. Don't rely on it. Don't have it give you like some sort of official, oh, you have 6 months to do this, and then rely on that and then have it be incorrect and get to the Immigration Bureau and they're going to tell you, no, where did you hear that? Like, no, don't rely on it for legal advice, but for just, what time should I go to the Immigration Bureau? Or what should I write on my cover letter? Or things like that. That's what it's really good for. Those are answers that you're going to have a really hard time finding anywhere else. So that's pretty much it for this video. I do hope to make more of these more often, and I'll hopefully be able to actually get out and show you stuff at some point. Right now it's the rainy season in Japan and we've got a typhoon coming and then another typhoon right after that. So it's a little not the best weather now, but also this is a channel about living in Japan. It's not a channel about being a tourist in Japan. I am going to show you some touristy things that I've done in the past and that I probably will do as someone who lives here as well. But now that I have my visa, it's going to be easier for me to make and post these videos. But yeah, thanks for watching to this point. And if you're not subscribed, I hope you do that now and leave a like, comment, anything that you can to help the channel. Just trying to get it going here, and then we'll see where things go from there. Anyway, thanks for watching. Bye-bye.